Okay, so thanks all of you for coming to this session. I'm not going to be optimist, but this is on. So actually, I'm going to talk about Al-Azhar. I don't because I thought I have 20 minutes, and so I have to short it to 15 minutes. So I will make my lecture shorter. So today, in today's world of social media, young people are exposed to radical narratives, and it's very problematic because these radical narratives in social media networks can lead to a radicalization and also can lead young people to also to commit terror attacks. So it's the responsibility of religious authorities to make sure that those young people are not exposed to these radical narratives. And the Al-Azhar institution is one of the leading religious authorities, not only in Egypt, but in the world, in the Sunni world, that is fighting against those narratives by disseminating counter-narrative, not only on social media networks, but also in publishing magazines for children, which are also disseminated among the young people, Muslims in the West, like in France and Germany and United Kingdom. And definitely Al-Azhar is doing a good job with this aspect. But unfortunately, when it comes to Israel, we see that Al-Azhar actually is leading a campaign against Israel, demonization against Israel, especially after 7th of October, and not only demonization, but also we can find even classic anti-Semitic narratives in the discourse of Al-Azhar against Israel. As like the first speakers mentioned, Al-Azhar after 7th of October issued a fatwa that, first of all, not only that Al-Azhar did not condemn the 7 October massacre against civilians, but he also praised those who committed that and said that this was illegitimate, and he also issued a fatwa that labeled all the citizens of Israel as settlers or invaders who stole the land of Israel. And this is something very serious because this religious authority, which I appreciate in some way, supposed to fight against radicalization, against narratives that was disseminated by ISIS and Al-Qaeda. But in Israel, when it's regarding to Israel, we see, I was also shocked to find several anti-Semitic narratives, and I will mention it later on. So by label those citizens as settlers, it's meaning that Al-Azhar gave a religious justification to spill the blood of the citizens of Israel. I'm not talking about the 67 borders, I'm speaking about all the borders of Israel. So in this lecture, I'm going to focus on the campaign led by Al-Azhar against Israel, since Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayeb, the head of Al-Azhar, was nominated to this post in late 2010. And maybe I should make a comment. It's legitimate to criticize the policy of the government of Israel. I think it's legitimate, but when this criticism is one-sided and you justify terror actions against civilians and you denies the basic right of the Jewish people to have a state, it's not anymore justified political criticism. It's a toxic propaganda. And it's more serious because the religious authority is conducting that. So I'm not going to speak about Al-Azhar, who is Al-Azhar, because we don't have time. But I have to say that Al-Azhar actually got more power and more budgets after 2014. What happened in 2014? ISIS managed to come to the stage and to disseminate radical narratives, especially in social media networks. And Abd al-Fattah al-Sisi, the president of Egypt, gave actually a national mission to Al-Azhar to make a reform inside the religious discourse, to remove a radical terminology from the textbooks of Egyptian education, and also to be active in social media networks to counter the narratives of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So these actually, of course, Al-Azhar likes to portray itself as the gatekeeper of a moderate interpretation to Islam. And Abd al-Fattah al-Sisi gave him this mandate to do that. And even one of the, let's say, the part of the moderate image of Al-Azhar as a moderate religious authority is also by the good relationship between Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayeb, the head of Al-Azhar, and the Pope, the former Pope, Francis, I think his name, of the Vatican. And these good relations also promoted the positive, moderate image of Al-Azhar. Now, because I don't have time, I just have to mention that Al-Azhar is not only active inside Egypt. Al-Azhar, because he has managed to cultivate good ties with Christians in United Kingdom and other places in West, he is active also outside Egypt. And because Western decision makers think that Al-Azhar is a good religious authority that has the ability to fight against radical narratives, we see that Al-Azhar imams are invited to speak in mosques in France and Germany, United Kingdom, and Al-Azhar is exploiting this status in order, of course, to broaden its soft power. As you can see, this is part of the soft power of Al-Azhar. For example, in the United Kingdom, there is an Islamic college which is called Jamia al-Karam that has a cooperation with Al-Azhar. And this is fine. Like until now, this is a positive action. We see that religious authority is doing good job against radical narratives. But what is the problem? That Al-Azhar is exploiting this extensive global network, and in order to put inside the curriculum that is being taught, for example, in United Kingdom, to teach about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, but this is one-sided. And we can see demonization of Israel and even dehumanization, not only of Israelis, but also of Jews. People, and I will show you later on. This is like a map of the branches, some of the branches of the graduates of Al-Azhar outside. So you see that the flag of United Kingdom is also there. This is about more than 20 countries outside Egypt. So Al-Azhar, when Ahmed Al-Tayeb was nominated to Al-Azhar Imam, he began to lead a campaign against the sovereignty of Israel on Jerusalem and also on Palestine, on Israel. And he also published a document which contains 13 points why Israel doesn't have the right to have a sovereignty on Jerusalem. For example, he said that the owners, the true owners, the authentic owners of Jerusalem were the Yevusim, the Jebusites. Jebusite, you say, right? Yevusim. So they were they were before the Jews, and because of that, and they are Arabs, so that's why the Arabs have the right to control on Gaza. So this is something that we'll see again, and it's very it's very surprising to see that Al-Azhar is also conducting a propaganda in Hebrew language in the social media networks, saying that Palestine, Jerusalem will be liberated from the Jews, if not in this era, so the descendants of the Muslims, the next generation will do this job. Now, it's very important to Al-Azhar also to show that he has good ties with all the levels of the leaders of the Palestinians, not only with Abu Mazen, but also with Hamas. So after 7th of October, there was a call phone between Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayeb to Ismail Haniyeh, and they blessed each other on this, on the 7th of October massacre. This is something very serious. Now, let's say that after 7th of October, there is a dramatically increase of publication, old publication, new publications that were written by Al-Azhar, mainly by Al-Azhar Muslim scholars, and not only. And we can find these books every year also in the International Arabic Books Fair that has been conducted in Cairo. Usually it's in January. And in this books fair, we can find these books that demonize Israel and also the Jews. And for example, if we look on the left, right, the Imam and the response to the Zionist claims, Ahmed Al-Tayeb actually is trying to refute 18 Jewish Israeli narratives. For example, Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayeb in this book says that the Muslims, that the Jews did not buy the lands of Palestine in the 19th century, in the beginning of the 20th century. For example, Baron Rothschild did not buy the lands from the Muslims in Zichron Yaakov. These lands were taken by force by the Muslims. So this is kind of propaganda, which is not true, of course. to show that the Jewish people doesn't have any sovereignty and the right to have a state in Israel, that actually they allegedly stole the lands from the Palestinians. And of course there are also discussions about Zionism, that Zionism is a product of imperialism, blah blah blah, all these, we know all these propaganda. So now I spoke about, in very short, about the demonization of Israel. There is also dehumanization and demonization of the Jewish people. For example, Majalat Al-Azhar. This is the magazine of Al-Azhar, the official. And here we can find, I found it very shocking, that one of Al-Azhar writers using a classic anti-Semitic narratives, and they say, let's try to understand why the Jewish people are so brutal and hostile to the Palestinian people. What happened what they are doing in Gaza, it's a genocide, blah, blah, blah. So let's understand. If we want to understand it, we have to go back to the Passover rituals. So you know these classic narrative, classic anti-Semitic narratives. So the Al-Azhar writer wrote that that Jewish people have connections with criminal gangs, cooperation to kidnap non-Jewish goy. It's also right, the name Goy is written in this article, that the Jewish people likes to kidnap Goyim and to take his blood and to bake his blood with matzah in Passover. And then that's why they are very violent. Their character is violent. Now, this is a religious authority that is responsible to cultivate a religious coexistence, to fight against radical narratives, and we see that this happens in this magazine. Another example is that the Al-Azhar denies that actually the Jewish people cultivated their own culture. According to them, the Jewish people stole writings of other cultures. For example, under the Muslim rule, this Al-Azhar Muslim scholar says that the Jewish people exploited the tolerance and the religious coexistence in order to steal writings from the Muslim scholars. For example, Ibn Pakuda, if you know, a very famous Jewish philosophers from Andalus, and he wrote Chovat HaLevavot, The Duty of the Arts. And according to this writer, this book was, the writing was stolen from a Muslim Sufi sheikh. So again, this is more vision, how the Jewish people are look. So again, Al-Azhar says the Jewish people deceive you. Today, the international community doesn't believe to the Jewish. The Jewish people are deceiving the world. They are having genocide in Gaza, blah, blah, blah. We cannot believe them, and eventually the Jewish occupation of Palestine will finish. So, and to conclude, yes, Al-Azhar is definitely a prominent religious authority in the world. Its image is like a moderate one. And I must also maybe have make a comment that there are other religious authorities in the Muslim world, not only Ahmadiyya, but also that I know personally also, that from Pakistan, even from Pakistan, that denounced and condemned the 7th of October massacre and say that killing civilians in a war between Muslims to non-Muslims it's not typical to Islam. It doesn't fit to Islam. They condemned it and they published the fatwa. Muslim scholars from Iraq also publish it. Muslim Sunni from Canada. There are other religious authorities from the Muslim world that condemn this massacre. But only Al-Azhar, religious authority, justified it and also glorified this event. Now, criticism, as I said, is legitimate, but if you use it like here, you justify violence against civilians, you justify the 7th of October massacre. So if Al-Azhar wishes to remain a credible voice of moderation, it should not have like a double standard. It should apply the same standards to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that applies in its fight against other forms of extremism. And I think this is a huge problem because of Al-Azhar enjoys from this good reputation, a global reputation. And this is something that the international community should pay attention. If you are a religious, perceive yourself and portray yourself as a religious, moderate religious authority, please don't don't adopt a double standard. So thank you.